Shalom, giving all praise to Halbashim, Hafshah Basham, Kakwadash, giving all praise to Halbashim, Hafshah Basham, Kakwadash. Shalom to the hopeful elect out there. It's in the morning, my voice is a little hoarse. Bear with me. So I'm going to entitle this video, When Revelation 13, verse 16 is fulfilled, many of us, or shall I say, some of us will die. So that's the ultimate test of faith. And you will die by execution pursuant to the precepts that I'm about to bring out. And we will see who's really about this truth. If you're facing death, most likely by way of guillotine, I would think it would be a computerized guillotine device. But we'll see. We'll see. Because it says in Revelation 20, verse 4, it says the ones that got in the victory. That's Revelation 15, but it says pretty much the same thing. I saw them sitting on thrones. I'm merely paraphrasing that. Ultimately, didn't take the mark and were beheaded. That's what it says. And that's talking about now. That's talking about what's getting ready to happen. Anyway, I'm going to go into Luke 23, verse 28, which says, it says Jesus, but I'll say Yahushai, the way you're supposed to say it. That's his true name. No J in the Hebrew, and Jesus doesn't mean anything. It's just two syllable noise. But Yahushai, turning unto them, said, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, because you had certain Israelite women weeping for the Lord, because this is when he was judged and he was to be condemned and he was to be hung on a cross, which was a heinous, terrible way to die, because he died slowly. It was a torturous death. It says, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. So let me actually go to it. As a matter of fact, let me open another tab. Bear with me for a minute. Just watching this video. See, a lot of these people out here, and the whole Hebrew Israelite thing, you're going to be tested, and you're going to be tested with, if we don't accept a certain thing, which we here at GMS been talking about. We're the only camp that really pushes it. There's other camps that believe and teach it, but not on the level that we teach it, because we know that that's the next major prophecy before the deliverance, the destruction, the kingdom of heaven. So if you was to read Daniel the 7th chapter, 7, 8, 9 verse, right before the Lord comes, the charagma is going to come, but it wasn't given to Daniel. It wasn't given to Isaiah. It wasn't given to any of the prophets except for John, the apostle on the Isle of Patmos. He was the only one that received that vision. He got more insight about the destruction than the prophet Daniel. Okay, so let me read that. And the reason why I'm going into this video, let me see if I got this video up. Did I even bring it up? You know what I'm gonna do to me? Okay, this one I really don't need that one. Okay, what I say I was gonna, oh, here it is. Here we go. Or the count for the earthquake that took place in Turkey and Syria. The count as of maybe a couple of hours ago is over 15,000 and rising. Bear me for a minute. Okay, this is it right. This is it right here. It's not a good time to think about having a good time. So let me do this. Okay, these are IUIC, but I guess that's Jackson, Mississippi, and they're having a 90s party at IUIC Jackson, Fun and Righteousness. Let me come back over here. Let me get a better shot of this individual right here. Let me do this. Let me do it this way. Okay, so this is one of the, let me pan out a little bit more. Where's his fringes at? Do this. Okay, so this is his actual hair. Yeah, he's one of the members of the IUIC. And he has, this is a man, not a woman, this is a man with long hair. This is obviously long hair, which goes against the scriptures, which goes against what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11 chapter, in the 11th chapter. You know, he goes in on Corinthians in 11th chapter, the whole book, you know. I got to do a thing on the whole of 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians, but that was the church that he had the most trouble with. And the reason why is because they came out of, well, he said it in 1 Corinthians 12 chapter, you were Gentiles, meaning carried away by these dumb idols, and practices and customs. You know, when the Apostle Paul taught the Israelites up in Corinth and Asia Minor, those surrounding, you know, Macedon and Colossus and Ephesus, all these different areas. It seemed like he had the hardest time getting the Israelites of Corinth to become Israelites, you know, because they accepted the fact that they were Israelites, but they love those customs because they were born with those customs. They first of all, there was a big deal about being uncircumcised. Timothy and Titus, because Timothy wasn't circumcised, Titus wasn't circumcised. I believe ultimately Timothy got circumcised, Titus didn't get circumcised. It was a big deal with uh, in Acts, the 15th chapter, about certain men that, and it started from the first verse, that says you cannot go in the kingdom of heaven if you're not circumcised. So they had a big council, and the top, apostles. Esau calls the not the Cornelius, but the Cornelius council happened during the time of when the split came. That's called the Cornelius Council, which all these groups that came up against it, they teach it now. And like they're going to ultimately see the MOTB is what we've been saying. They're going to have to admit that GMS is always right. But they had Jerusalem, it was called the Jerusalem Council. If you look that up, go to Google, put in Jerusalem Council, it'll take you right to Acts the 15th chapter. So the conclusion was they don't have to be circumcised. Then Paul even came back and spoke about don't let nobody judge you on meats and drinks in respect of the Sabbath day, which is the shadow of things to come, meaning we're going to keep those laws, statutes, and commandments in the kingdom perfectly and teach it to the nation, right? So one of the things that Paul got into was the fact that you had men with long hair. And I said this before, you had men with long hair, and when they came into the fact that they were Israelites, they came into the fold under the Apostle Paul, they kept their hair. So Paul is looking around and he's checking these people out, and he's seeing that you got women teaching men and women. They're holding the position of authority over men, and they were committing adultery. That's in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. That's, you can really just start the first, I believe it's in the first verse, the first couple of verses. So Paul said, look, you can't be laying with your father's wife, and for that matter, you can't be laying with your brother's wife. That's adultery, and that's a sin unto death. Another thing that he said was, women, keep silent in churches. If you have any questions, ask your husbands at home, meaning you should have husbands. What is that? First Timothy 5. It speaks about the woman supposed to have a husband. And another thing, coming back to 1 Corinthians chapter 11, well, he gave it an order. You had Yahweh the Father, then the Son, then man on the earth, which are the Israelites, men, which are a certain order. And then you have the woman. That's the order. So Paul had to put everything in order. And part of the order was men having long hair. And the reason why men came around with long hair is because that was a Greek custom for the young men and even the old men to have long hair. They had it plaited, they had it braided up because they were Jake. Even in the movie Troy with this guy, Brad Pitt, there was a scene, I did a video on that, where they showed these men of Athens that they showed that they had a back scene, right? So this guy, I believe it was Ridley Scott that made that movie. It could have been Ridley Scott or somebody else. But Ridley Scott makes these period pieces, but there was another guy that makes period pieces, and they go all into the history. They got historians on the set. They got people that specialize in the costumes, and so you have a lot of educated people, educated to how they lived back. We're talking like 300, yeah, 300 AD, around that time period. I mean, not AD, but BC, before the Messiah, during the time of Alexander the Greek, and this was before, well, around that time period, around that time period. Anyway, and they kept everything to detail, except that they had white guys all in the movie instead of Jake, because Jake was all up in there. Jake made Jake made Greece great. They came up with all the heroes, the gods. Zeus is actually black god. All the gods were black, just like Jake is taking over now. But anyway, one of the customs of young and old, but mainly young Greek men, which we're talking about the Israelite Greek men, part of their glory was long hair. And he's not wearing a wig. These guys that wore and see, before this individual came into the truth, he had that long hair. You got Jakes with mohawks, you got Jakes with bald, they shave their hair completely bald. You got Jakes with these crazy, like most of these mugshots of these Jakes that shoot up people, they got them crazy ass. They look crazy. When you have dreadlocks that's all over the place, you look crazy. I mean, he has it in the right. He's not all crazy looking. He doesn't look like a madman, but from behind, you might think he's a woman. This is completely out of order. Having long hair. They come into this thing, they come into the IUIC, and they teach them to do this, and you got to put the fringes on and keep the law. But they wouldn't say nothing about the hair unless they tell them to do the hair, cut the hair off, but then they don't, so they leave them alone. Well, this is completely out of order. This is completely out of order. And see, Bishop Nate, which he doesn't even deserve that title, he'll push things in the New Testament. He'll say, well, we're supposed to we can only have one wife, which goes to a bishop and a deacon. Bishops and deacons are heads of the church, like they're in the church. Some of them even live in the church. Like Yaquab, Elder Yaquab would be a bishop because he was always in the church. He was there. Every teacher that came in and taught, he was right there. He was sitting on the side, or he was in the room, the little side room, and he lived right around the corner. So he was like the bishop. He was in the school more than High Priest Ariel, more than King Masha. So if you was to give him a title, he would be a bishop. So what Bishop Nate says is, yeah, the Old Testament says you can have more than one wife. There's no law against that. But in IUIC, you can't have more than one wife. You can only have one wife. And then he brings out the bishop scriptures and the deacon scriptures. In which, if let's say a bishop, first of all, a bishop is a made-up term because it wasn't in the New Testament. It's not written in the law. So if a bishop decides to have two wives, that's nobody's business but his, because that's a made-up term. I'll go into the history of the bishop. I'll do a video on that. And the deacons. So he's slick. He said, you are a bishop and you are a deacon. Oh, what you got, two women? You got to cut one of them off. So that's his thing. That's the gospel according to Bishop Nate. And that's coming from the New Testament. So he cherry picks what he likes and what he doesn't like, and he gives it to the congregation, and they eat it up like, baby birds. You got mother hen feeding the baby birds, and they just feed. They don't know no better. So if you're going to make a big deal about, well, this is the justification that you can only have one wife because you're a bishop and you're a deacon, or you don't want to get rid of that second wife, then you lose your title of bishop. But then and also it says, the Apostle Paul said it, and the Lord was working with Apostle Paul. Peter is highly esteemed Apostle Paul for his writings that it was hard for people to understand. Um, and why did Peter say that? Because Yahweh Shai was dealing directly with the Apostle Paul in the spirit. He was showing him things. That's why he had more books than all the apostles. He had the book of Romans, the book of Romans, Acts, First Corinthians, Second Corinthians, the book of Hebrews, Ephesians. All those books, the majority of the books written in the New Testament were written by, or the epistles were written by the Apostle Paul. So you can't tell me the Apostle Paul, no, the Lord wasn't dealing with Apostle Paul. The Lord was dealing with the Apostle Paul more than he was dealing with Peter. So it says, so this guy pulls out this thing about you can only have one wife. You can only have one wife. But then, like I said, the Apostle Paul said a man's not supposed to have long hair, but they allow him to have long hair. What is that called? That's called hypocrisy. Now, can you find, if you search hard enough, can you find hypocrisy in anybody? Of course you can. But this is an easy thing. First of all, they're having a good time, and I'm gonna say this again. That's why I call them zombies, and they all blindly follow Bishop Nate. They all blindly follow Bishop Nate. That's why when we put up videos on the charagma, which is the major subject, that's why he put so many videos up, and he comes against it, they'll listen to us or hear, well, they're pretty much, or I don't know how true that is, but it's almost like they're ordered not to watch our videos. I'm not saying that any of them said don't watch GMS videos, but it's like they put it out there in the air that, don't watch them videos because you're going to get jacked up. So if they do happen to window shop and watch our videos, Bishop Nathaniel has to reinforce it by going back to Revelation 13:16 to get their mind right, so to speak. Now, if Bishop Nathaniel wakes up one morning and says, I had a dream, the Spirit came to me, I had a vision, he's not going to give credit to GMS, mind you. He said, I had a vision about John and the Isle of Patmos, and I was next to John, and he was looking at something, and I looked where he was looking at. What is he looking at? And I actually saw people getting charagma. So the Spirit came to me and showed me that the charagma is and guess what? All of them will see it. Every last one of them. Every last one of them. All of a sudden, miraculously, their eyes are open because the great Bishop Nate has spoken, the Wizard of Oz. So now, with saying all of that, this is a party and they skating around, they doing with 90s, meaning that's the love of the world. All right, Mr. 90s, let's have a party about that. Well, that's the love of the world. So now let me get a couple of scriptures here. Okay, the main scripture that came to mind is Luke. Luke, let me do this. This is what I want, the 28th verse. Okay, let me see. I don't want to go too far up. Okay, this was the people that came after Yahweh Shai. I'm not going to go into it. Let me see. I might have to go into it. Okay, let me start at the 18th verse. Okay, 17th verse. You can read the whole chapter. For of necessity, he must release one unto them at the feast. So this was a custom that if you had criminals that were to be condemned to death, this was for the Israelites as like a gift from the Roman Empire. They would say, okay, we got two guys we're going to put to death. One of them we're going to let go. We're going to let go because of the feast, and we're going to kill the other one. So you get to choose. So the people could have chose, and this was Pontius Pilate. Let me make sure. Well, this goes up to Herod. Okay. Okay. The Lord before Pilate, Pontius Pilate, which he could have been a Jake that had a high position, or he could have been an Edomite. It doesn't tell you that. Then, let me see. Whole multitude rose, led him in unto Pilate. Now, Pilate said, I don't see nothing wrong with this man. I said, what you condemning this man for? I don't see nothing wrong with this man. Which leads me to believe that Pilate may be, there's no information on it. We assume he's an Edomite, but he could have been a Jake with a high position. And Pilate asked him, saying, art thou king of the Jews? And he answered, thou sayest. And said Pilate to the chief priests and to the people, this is what he says, I find no fault in this man. This man ain't did nothing. These are false charges you're bringing against this man. Because they wanted to get him on sedition charges. And they were the more fierce. These are the people, the Israelites. So that hatred that they have for GMS, those are the same niggas that has hatred for Yahweh Shai. Like, I'm gonna make this statement, y'all gonna play on it. If Yahweh Shai was on the earth right now, what camp do you think he would be in? Now that's a topic. I'm throwing that out there to all of y'all, GMS brothers. If Yahweh Shai was on the scene, what camp do you think he would be in? If John the Baptist was on the scene, what camp do you think he'd be in? But they'll be the heads, of course. Yahweh Shai be the head. He'll be the head of GMS. He ain't gonna be a part of he ain't gonna be a part of ISUPK. He ain't damn sure ain't gonna be a part of the IUIC. He damn sure ain't gonna be a part of the Wi-Fi. Okay, and they and they were the more fierce, saying he stirred up the people, which is sedition. Look up the word sedition. It means to speak words to get the people riled up to take down the government. Teaching throughout all Jewry among Jews, beginning from Galilee to this place. And Pilate heard of Galilee. He asked whether the men were Galilean. And as soon as they knew that he belonged unto Herod's jurisdiction, right, he sent him to Herod, who himself also was at Jerusalem at that time. The Lord before Herod. And when Herod saw the Lord, he was exceedingly glad, for he was desirous to see him of a long season, because he had heard many things of him our Lord was famous. Give me a second here. When Herod saw Yahushua, he was exceeding glad, for he was desirous to see him of a long season, because he had heard many things of him, and he hoped to have seen some miracle done by him. So he was like, that's the guy. Yeah, I heard this guy actually, raised the dead. He made the blind see. He said, I gotta meet this guy. I gotta meet this guy. I want to see him do a miracle in front of me. Wow, I can't wait to see him. Uh, then then he questioned with him in many words, but he answered him nothing. He didn't answer nothing because he wasn't dealing with him. He wouldn't deal with him. Harold was so what's tell me what's because you perform murder. He just looked at him like, who the hell are you? And the chief priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. Them niggas are back here today. Them same niggas, they're gonna line up, they're gonna take the Karagna and they're gonna be destroyed. And because the Lord didn't get him back there, he gonna get him now. And Harold with his men of war, which is personal army, set him at naught and mocked him. He said, man, this dude ain't respecting me, man. He giving me the fucking silent treatment. It says, and like I said, the men of war, Herod had his own personal army, and arrayed him in a gorgeous robe, and sent him again to Pilate. Send him back, man. This guy, what the hell with this dude? Got a bad taste in my mouth for this dude. And the same day, Pilate and Herod were made friends together, for before they were at enmity between themselves. They didn't like each other, but they began to be cool with each other. Pilate seeks the Lord's release. Got all these precepts. And Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests. Now, if you notice, he answered Pilate when Pilate said, do you say that you're king? And he said, you said, that's what you said. But when he went to Herod was talking to him, and Herod was really happy. I want to meet this guy. I want to meet this dude. And the Lord gave him the silent treatment, but he didn't give the silent treatment to Pilate, which leads me to believe that Pilate could be a Jake. Can't prove it. When he had called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, said unto them, ye have brought this man unto me as one that perverteth the people, and behold, I have examined him before you, have found no fault in this man touching those things whereof ye accuse him. No, nor yet Herod, for I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death is done unto him. So even Herod said, this guy, you don't send him back to Pilate. So Herod had a position higher than Pilate, right? But he didn't say can kill this man. He didn't say that. He said, I will therefore chastise him and release him, beat him up a little bit and send him on his way. For necessity, he must release one unto them at the feast. So Pilate's thing was, they got to release one. This is the guy that's going to be released. He's because we got cutthroats and murderers and Barabbas. What does it say? Barabbas. Barabbas. This man was charged with sedition, meaning his thing was to take down the Roman Empire. And I guarantee, and he was a murderer. He done killed some Roman soldiers. So this guy's a true cutthroat. To show you how wicked our people are. And they're back here today, getting ready to line up to take the Charagma. All you people that came against Yahushua over 2,000 years ago that was there, you're back here today, and you're gonna take the Charagma. You're definitely gonna take the Charagma, and then you're gonna be condemned. It says, and they cried out all at once, saying, away with this man, and release unto us Barabbas. This is what you demons, you Israelites, you wicked ass Israelites said. They said, but even though this guy, even though Barabbas was dead set against the Roman Empire, he done cut the throats of Romans. This dude was a real cutthroat. And they use the word sedition. Sedition means to come against a standing government, to completely take down the government, kill the rulers, and set up a new government. That's what sedition is. But he was pushing the people to do it. He was gathering the people, the Israelites, by the way. It says, who for a certain sedition made in the city, and for murder, he murdered people, was cast into prison. Pilate therefore willing to release Yahushua. Pilate said, I don't see nothing. This guy did nothing wrong. Where's the record? He hasn't done nothing wrong. I'm going to release this guy. And certainly the people are going to say yes at the feast, concerning the feast. Pilate, therefore, willing to release Yahushua, spake again to them, but they cried, saying, crucify him, crucify him. And that's the worst way you can die. It was a painful, slow death, agonizing death. It says, and he said unto them the third time, why? What evil have he done? I found no cause of death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go. And they were instant, meaning ready, Old English, with loud voices, requiring that he might be crucified, and the voices of them and of the chief priests prevailed. The chief priests. The chief priests. The chief priests. And Pilate gave a sentence that it should be as they required. Like he said, I don't want to do it, but the people are forcing me to do it, and I got to honor that feast. So I got to let this cutthroat Barabbas go, and I got to have this guy crucified. So who really crucified? I was reading about David, and it said that David killed Uriah with the sword. He didn't kill Uriah with the sword. He set him up to get killed. So did Pilate really put out the order? No, the people. He said, no, I'm willing to let this guy up, beat him up a little bit, and let him go. All right, which means that Pilate had some form of justice in him, and he released unto them him that for the sedition and murder was cast into prison, whom they had desired, but he delivered Yahushua to their will, to the people's will, which are the Israelites. And it goes to him getting beat down, and Simon, the Canaanite, he was an Israelite from the land, from Canaan, carried the cross because he was too weak. So it says here, and there followed him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. These were the ones that were for him. But Yahushua, turning unto them, said, daughters of Jerusalem. Why did he say daughters of Jerusalem? Because that's where the siege was going to take place, Jerusalem. Weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, blessed are the barren and the womb that never bare, and the paps that never gave suck. Like blessed is a woman that don't have children, infant children, toddlers. Because what ultimately what was going to happen to them? They were going to eat their children. And that's heinous within itself. That's a heinous crime, but they were so without food that like if you go to Google in the history of it, the siege of Jerusalem 70 AD and cannibalism, that's a hell of a thing. You eating your own children. You have a child that's 2 years old, 3 years old, and you're so hungry that you got to kill the child, cook the child, and eat the child. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine you feeding the other family? You carving your baby up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Okay, you get the leg, you get the arm, and that show you that this man is truly a devil. The time when the babies were killed because Herod was trying to get the Messiah. They were going in people's houses if they saw a baby too, which really represents a boy child. It doesn't say boy or girl child, but it's a boy child. They said, "How old is that baby? That baby's 1.5. I'm going to kill him." And then they couldn't do nothing because the Romans had power over them with violence, right? And the violent ones take it by force. So they did a lot of killing. So now it's time for them to be killed. It said, then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in a dry? And there were also 2 others, malefactors, led with him to be put to death. And now one of them said, today you'll be with me in paradise. So the main thing that I wanted was the 28th verse. But Yahushua turning unto them said, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Why did he tell them to weep? Because they were going to suffer. They were going to suffer. You know, when the Romans besieged Jerusalem, and how they was going to build a wall around the wall of Jerusalem. They were going to build a fence, and they're going to get rocks, and they're going to build a wall around the city, so no one could come in and no one could come out. So for them to starve to death. That's heinous, man. That's wicked. That show you the wickedness of this man. So now let's go from here. So I thought about this um, with this party that these IUIC people are having, and you see the guy with the long hair, and the man is a grown man. He comes into the thing, and I'm sure they didn't say nothing that you got to cut your hair, which is scriptural. Paul said that, but they'll cherry pick scriptures from Paul and the New Testament men. Anyway, it says like the IUIC is nothing but a church. It's pretty much a church. It says when I'm going to start here, 24 verse 15, right? It says perilous times. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, that's Daniel 9, started 24, read to 27. And then you got these dumbass Christians saying that that's the rapture and that's the fulfillment of Daniel 9 and the Antichrist. And all those Christians teach that same thing because they don't understand the scriptures. It says, as a matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the blue letter just to see what they say about this. Daniel 9. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. This is in parentheses. This was not the original part of the original writings. That's why it's in parentheses. Then let him which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Now you got there's even Israelites teach that this is talking about now. It ain't talking about now. This thing took place like 2,000 years ago. This is 70 AD. When you read Matthew's the 24th chapter, there's two events, 70 AD and this coming event. You have these guys that call themselves eschatology or eschatologists, and that means the end of all things. So you got this guy, William Bell, which is a J. He teaches that eschatology, meaning that everything took place in the Bible. Everything took place in the Bible, that the kingdom is here. It says, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. This has nothing to do with the end of this end that we're coming to. It's talking about 70 AD. So when you see the Romans come in, grab something and just get out of there because they're coming to kill you. They came in as a flood. Revelation 12. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Whatever you got on your back, you go. That's why it says, woe unto them that give suck in those days. Oh, here it is right here. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Let me see something. Did we just read that? Right. Luke 23, verse 29. For behold, the days are coming. This is 70 AD. When I say 70 AD, I'm talking about from 66 AD all the way to 74 AD. But a key year was 70. The scholars say 70 AD. But it represents like how many years? It represents like 6 years, but the key year that the hell came down on Israel was 70 AD. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never gave suck. Like it's gonna be a blessing that you ain't got no kids, because you're trying to get away from the Romans, and you got toddlers and infants, and that's gonna slow you down. Because when the Romans come in, they're gonna kill you and your kids. That's what that means. So pray that your flight be not in winter on a cold day, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation. Now that's not talking about the tribulation in Daniel 12, because in that great tribulation of Daniel 12, it says that Michael shall deliver you. So that great tribulation in Daniel 12 is talking about what's getting ready to happen now, because this devil is going to come down hard and he's going to kill some of us. He's going to write paperwork up. He's going to find us guilty of a thing, and this, which means, what does that mean? They're not going to put you in death row for 30 years. When martial law is declared, there's a thing called summarily put to death, meaning they find you out there in the field, you're guilty of this, you're guilty of treason, or you're guilty of fraternizing with the enemy, or you're potentially a double agent, a spy, or whatever. They get the evidence together and they kill you on the spot. That's called, so she'll be summarily put to death. And that's what they do in war. They do that today. That's your code of military justice, which I believe is Article 10 of the is it Article 10 or Chapter 10? I believe it's Chapter 10 of the United States Code, which is your military code of justice. Now it says in the military code of justice, it says if you rape a woman, you're put to death. Now, Clinton was guilty of raping a woman. What's that chick? And then she sued her. They were supposed to put Clinton to death because he was the head of the military. The president is the head of the military, so he was supposed to be put to death. So that's what they're going to do. That's what I see them doing. If you say, I'm not going to accept that chip, you're going to be faced with death. You're going to be faced with being put to death, summarily put to death. Okay, he doesn't want to accept it. Okay, they put you in the cell. You might be in there for a week, 2 weeks. They grab you out. They bring it to the guillotine, which I see it being a guillotine, a computerized guillotine. But like, that's in my mind. I can't, we got to see it coming. See, if they come out and they say that they made, whatever they do, they don't give it out to the public. They don't let you know. That's called classified. This is classified information. And many years later, it becomes declassified. So there's certain things that we don't know about that the government, that the military is doing, that's classified. So you may hear, but we'll see how they're gonna do it. You hear something on the news that crime is so bad and things are so terrible that we can't afford to house these people in prisons, so we got to put them to death. And they'll probably come up with something if you don't take the Quran. But we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. We watch the prophecies. We don't give you detail as to what it is. We just see the prophecy unfolding, and then we identify it with the scriptures. So they might say, well, if you don't take the Quran, there's a disease that's out there that if you don't take it, you can give other people the disease, So we got to put you to death because you're killing people. What they did with this thing, and people fell for it. The whole C19 thing. You know, most people fell for it, man. So to set an example, they're gonna have to start killing people. Not all of us is gonna be put to death, but some of us are. So that's when we're gonna see if you were a real Israelite. When you get faced, you some bunch of Israelites got their heads chopped off with a bunch of patriotic Edomites and certain Arabs. This guy got his head chopped off. This guy got his head chopped off for this reason. Then you're gonna hear the first case of somebody getting their head chopped off um, for not taking the charagma. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see. That's why it says. That's why it says in Revelation 20 verse 4, it says that they didn't accept the charagma, they were beheaded. It says that there was a sheep with two horns that spoke as a dragon, meaning draconian measures. Draconian measures law is pretty much a military law, martial law. Martial law, they summarily put you to death. Revelation 12 verse 12. They shall come down. They shall come down hard. I'm merely paraphrasing. They shall come down hard indeed, knowing that they have but a short time. I'm merely paraphrasing Revelation 12 and 12. So that whole spirit of Esau in this country and around the world is going to change. They're gonna do away with the Constitution. I see them doing away with the anytime there's martial law, the Constitution is suspended. So they bring in military law. And there was guys in the war, in various wars, where a guy was accused of being a spy. They bring the evidence against him. Then they'll be out in the field and they say, okay, put him to death. Then they tie him up. Then they blow his head. They blow his brains out. Then they bury his ass and keep going. And in war, in the military, everything is quick. You got to do things. You got to have snap judgments. So everything is going to be militarized. When that charagma comes out, I see martial law or quasi martial law being taken place. When you say, well, I got constitutional right, they're going to grab your shit, grab you, and fuck you up and kill you in the process. So this is what this is talking about. Matthew 24 is talking about two events. Now, if you go to the commentary and you look this up, they're going to tell you it's the Roman Empire, the siege during the time of Titus. So now this is what I want to do. Let's go to Luke. So bottom line is this. This is not no time to be having a good time, because some of you are going to be put to death. It's not going to be a good time when they declare martial law, when they push that charagma. It's not going to be a happy time. So let me read this. I'm going to get ready to close. Cambridge Bible for Schools and Colleges. Turning unto them said the only record words, command, pity, wrung from him, the utterances, anguish, violence had failed to exhort. Daughters of Jerusalem, the willing women were not there for his former Galilean followers. Then you got a precept there. Like he said, weep for yourselves. Some of them at least would survive till the terrible days of the siege. So what does it mean by siege? 70 AD. So that's what he was talking about when he said, "Weep, don't weep for me, weep for yourself and your children." So some of them women were like, let's say 30 years old. They were going to still live 70 AD, 71 AD or whatever. So we're talking if they were 25 years old, let's say they were 20 years old. When the siege came and that time of trouble came, they were what? They were like in their 60s. If they were 30, they were in their 70s. So that's why he said, weep for yourself and your children. Weep for yourself and your children. Because if they had toddlers at that time, those children would be in their 40s, right? It says some of them, that's why he said, weep for you and your, he was talking about their literal children. Some of them at least will survive till the terrible days of the siege. And for your children, his blood be on us and on our children. Now, they put a curse on themselves. They said, crucify him and let his blood be on us and our children. So they condemn themselves and they condemn their children. So the ones that said, crucify him and let his blood be on us and our children were the ones who were obviously against the Lord. They wanted to see him die because the statements that he made to them were blasphemous. Just like us at GMS, when we said we got into the great doctrine, they all came against us. All of the groups came against us. Then some people started to see it because they stopped getting emotional and they started reading it and they said, well, that was right. Just like when the Cornelius thing came out, all them guys in that school at 126 in Harlem, all them guys are dead set against us. And they kicked us out at that time. They kicked us, they said, y'all out of here. They said they shall cast you out of their synagogues, right? Well, all them groups, most of them are back in the world, getting ready to get getting ready to get chipped and dipped. The only one left, all the people that was with this guy, Bishop Nate, all them guys left, all of them. All them guys that were down with him, they all went back into the world. This group that he has now is pretty much, except for Yahweh Shop. Yahweh Shop wasn't there at that meeting. I don't remember. But Yahweh Shop kind of went his own way because Yahweh Shop, the great Bishop Yahweh Shop, he came up to Connecticut with a Thun, this Deacon the Thun, when he was a kid. He said, that young guy that was with Yahweh Shop that came to the Passover, I was him, because I ran into him some years ago. Shit, this might be 10 years ago. And he kind of got nervous because I was right in the vicinity of his school. So he said, this guy's, he coming to the school. He fine on it. Well, first of all, you guys put out the address where the school is at, so it's no secret. And number two, I wasn't coming to that school. I was going to the pizza shop. And I had a pizza in my hand. I said, no, I'm here to get some pizza. All right. But where am I? So the people, so there were two groups of people that there were a group of people that was for Yahweh Shai, and there was a bigger group of Israelites that was against Yahweh Shai, and they wanted to see him die because of the blasphemous things they thought he said, like what we say about the great doctrine. They look at us like that's a blasphemous thing that they said. That's why a Wi-Fi, and them guys from Wi-Fi, them were the guys, it's the same guys back there saying about the Lord crucifying them demons. Because they don't read the scriptures, they get caught up in their emotions. And then you got a lot of groups that as I've said before, they get emotional when the charagma comes up because they can't see it. Now the scriptures say wisdom is too high for a fool. That's why they can't see it. They're a bunch of fools. Or they got a bag. Now I was going to do a video on that, and I was going to go into wisdom is too high for a fool, and then I was going to go into what precept was I going to go into? Oh, Festus. When Festus, Paul spoke to Festus, right? And he told the truth about the Lord coming and this, that, and the third. And then Festus is looking at him like, what's this nigga talking about? He said, yo, Paul, you study too much. You bugging the hell out. Well, wait a minute. Did Paul say something that was bugged out? It was bugged out to him because it was over his head. And that's why you guys, Naquan said what he said. Wisdom is too high. I mean, you said, how'd you say? You said, wisdom or much studying have made thee mad. Okay, read it in the NLT. And they're laughing, right? Well, you know what? The reason why you said that is the same reason why Festus said that, because it was over Festus' head and it's damn sure over your head. And by the way, you still down with Priest Zabak. Zabak even came out and said it was a chip. Because so many people were asking him questions. He said, you know, GMS teaches about the MOT. What do you think about it? And then finally he said, in one video, I wish somebody had the video, if it's still up, and send it to me. He came out and said, he said it's that. He didn't say chip, but he said it's that, but it's other things. Okay, good. At least you're close. You're warm. So Zabak said it is the charagma, it is the chip, but it's other things. Well, what other things? Tell me what the other things are. Is it the microchip and a can of Coke? Is it the microchip and a side of spaghetti and meatballs? Is the charagma and a bag of chips? What the fuck do you mean by that? That shows you that these guys don't know, man. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say Shalom. Forgive me for going so long.